He was just a boy, passionate about music and trying to escape his father's wrath. She was a lonely teacher, waiting for a sailor who would never return to this God-forsaken corner. And what happened between them forever changed both their lives, leaving an indelible mark on their souls. The story begins in 1928 in a coastal Mexican village where time seems frozen in anticipation of change. The town is still reeling from the aftermath of the revolution, and politics, unions, and violence define the daily lives of every resident. Young Eliseo grows up in a home where fear and silence reign. His father is a brutal dock worker and one of the founders of a local union that publicly fights for workers' rights but secretly terrorizes his own family. Eliseo learns early on that survival means learning to lie. He lies to his teacher about the origin of his bruises, lies to his friends about the well-being of his home, and tries to lie to himself, hiding his inner pain behind a mask of absent-mindedness and poor academic performance. His teacher, Felipe, notices something unusual in him, something hidden behind his stubborn demeanor and emotional isolation. Beneath the surface of a troubled teenager, she sees a deep intellect and the unbearable pain he carries within. Filipa herself is unlike the other villagers. She is educated, independent, and secretly a deeply romantic. For years, she has been devoted to her love for a sailor who ebbs and flows like the tides, and she dutifully waits for him, believing that one day they will build a life together. Seeing Eliseo suffer under his father's tyranny, she makes a decision unusual for the time. She orders him to come to her house every morning before school so he can help with the housework. It was an attempt to instill discipline in the boy, but above all, it was protection. For the first time in his life, Eliseo finds himself in an atmosphere of cleanliness and peace, not screaming and humiliation, finding a safe haven in Felipe's home. The turning point comes one evening when Eliseo comes to her, brutally beaten by his father. His face is swollen, and his spirit is completely broken. Filipa realizes she can't send him back to that hell and allows him to stay the night. Silence reigns in the house while the village sleeps to the whisper of the distant sea. Two lonely souls, an emotionally scarred boy and a woman exhausted by the anticipation of a love that never came true, find themselves in a shared space of pain and vulnerability. In that moment, driven by confusion and a frantic longing for warmth, they cross a line that law and morality forbid. After that night, the world around them changes irrevocably. Eliseo becomes her special student. Their glances now hold a shared secret, and their conversations are filled with an invisible tension. But in a small village, nothing can be hidden, and soon poisonous rodents. Meanwhile, tragedy strikes, shattering Felipa's world. Her sailor, the man she's sincerely loved for all these years, disappears at sea, and his body is soon found on the shore. This grief devastates her, mingling personal loss with the weight of her actions. She realizes she's crossed all boundaries, and her relationship with young Eliseo becomes a symbol of her own despair and unbearable loneliness. The burden of public condemnation and an internal crisis force her to make a difficult decision. Unable to bear the scandal and the moral pressure, she simply leaves the area. It wasn't a dramatic confession or a public revelation. She simply left, leaving Eliseo alone with his confusion. The boy loses his way, loses his bearings, and is left in a void, trying to understand what exactly this woman meant to him. 9 long years pass, and it's 1935. Eliseo is no longer that frightened child. He's now a grown, married man, yearning for stability and trying not to become like his father. Outwardly, he's matured, but deep down, he's still unable to free himself from the influence of that first, forbidden attachment. When Filipa suddenly returns to the village, time seems to collapse on them both. Old whispers awaken with renewed vigor, and forgotten feelings flare up in their hearts. She's older, even more withdrawn, bearing the obvious scars of the years, while he's torn between the weight of responsibility and the memories of his youth. Their reunion brings no passion. It's difficult and bitter. Now they both understand that their intimacy was born not so much of attraction as of ignorance, pain, and the tragic circumstances of the time. At the end of this story, Eliseo is forced to decide who Felipe was to him, his great love or simply his first painful awakening. He realizes their relationship was never equal, born of imbalance and vulnerability, but it was precisely this experience that shaped him as a person. This film is striking in its honesty. It doesn't try to justify the characters or romanticize their story, leaving the viewer with a gray area to reflect on morality and human frailty. It's a story about how one night can echo for decades and how society judges without trying to heal the wounds. Ultimately, the real reason for their connection isn't magic, but the violence and silence of the world around them. Was Felipe his destiny, or simply a lesson that made him a man? Share in the comments how you assess her actions. Was she a monster, or simply a broken person? And if this story has given you pause, don't forget to support the channel with your attention.